Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something that literally questions reality itself. If you're the kind of person who loves to zoom in, connect the dots, and really try to figure out the fundamental fabric of our world, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to take a deep dive into an idea that challenges the very nature of human existence, and we're bringing in some seriously compelling academic research and physical observations to guide us through it.
So, take a second and just look around you right now. The chair you're sitting in, the screen you're looking at, your own hands. What if absolutely none of it is physical matter? What if this reality, exactly as we're experiencing it, is basically just the Matrix, or like a ridiculously advanced universe-sized game of The Sims? Think about it. What if you and I are literally just characters on a screen, existing inside this ultra-high-tech program being run by someone or something in a universe one level above ours? I know, it sounds like a wild pop culture hook, but as you'll see in a minute, some very serious academics think this might actually be our reality.
All right, let's map out this rabbit hole. Here's our agenda for today. 1. The simulation trilemma. 2. Glitches in quantum physics. 3. Who are the creators? 4. Identity and simulated afterlives. 5. The illusion of free will. And finally, 6. The danger of knowing.
Okay, Section 1, the simulation trilemma, focusing on Nick Bostrom's argument.
So, philosopher Nick Bostrom lays out these 3 core propositions, famously known as the simulation trilemma. Let's break them down. Step 1. The human species is highly likely to go extinct before we ever reach a technologically mature, quote-unquote, post-human stage. Step 2. Even if we do survive to that super advanced stage, those post-human civilizations will probably have zero interest in running ancestor simulations. Maybe it takes too many resources, or maybe they just have ethical issues with it. And then there's step 3. We are almost certainly living in a computer simulation right now. The absolute genius of this is the logical deduction. Think about it like a puzzle. If step 1 is false, meaning we don't go extinct, and step 2 is false, meaning advanced civilizations actually do want to run these simulations, then step 3 virtually has to be true. We are overwhelmingly likely to be simulated beings.
Now, we need to be really clear about Bostrom's exact stance here because it gets misquoted a lot. Coming straight from the Oxford Martin School, Bostrom himself says, "I believe that we are probably not simulated." He is definitely not saying with absolute certainty that we live in a computer. He's talking about probability. He's just proving that, logically speaking, at least one of those 3 options has to be true. He just doesn't know for sure which one it is.
Which brings us to Section 2, glitches in quantum physics. Are there errors in the code?
To really grasp this, we have to look at the famous double-slit experiment in quantum mechanics. It's wild. When we observe particles, they act completely normal. They behave as solid matter with a fixed position. But when nobody is looking, when they are completely unobserved, they exist just as a wave of probabilities. Why would the universe do that? Well, there's this fascinating Reddit thread analyzing simulation theory that brought up a brilliant video game analogy, foveated rendering. You know how a game engine only renders the exact environment a player's currently looking at just to save processing power? Our universe might be doing the exact same thing. It might not render particles into solid reality until they're explicitly observed by us. It's literally a processing power optimization shortcut. And get this, those comparisons to computing limits, they don't just happen at the microscopic level. They scale all the way up. Take the speed of light. It functionally acts as an absolute hardware processing limit for the universe. Nothing can render faster than that. Or think about relativity. When you get close to a supermassive object like a black hole, time literally slows down. That sounds exactly like what happens when you spawn way too many items in a game like Minecraft, right? The frame rate just drops. Time dilation basically mimics a computer processor lagging when a single frame is just stuffed with too much information.
Now, impartially speaking, science obviously has strong arguments on both sides. On the pro-simulation side, cosmologists argue that as our computing scales up to exascale levels, you could have simulations nested inside simulations over and over, creating this massive multiverse of fake worlds that statistically outnumber the one real world. But on the anti-simulation side, Harvard physicist Lisa Randall asks a pretty blunt, pragmatic question: why bother? Like, why would an advanced species waste unimaginable processing power simulating us? Plus, physicists Zohar Ringel and Dmitry Kovriji actually prove that classical computing currently can't even simulate basic quantum interactions. So that throws a huge wrench in the idea of whether our universe even has the computational capacity to be simulated in the first place.
Okay, so this brings us to a major shift in our perspective. We're going to look at some incredible research from Michelle Lee Graham at DePauw University, which lets us pivot away from the physical, hardware arguments and dive straight into the deep philosophical side of things. Because honestly, if we assume the simulation is real, it completely upends how we have to view our own existence.
Moving to Section 3. Who are the creators? I mean, who is actually at the keyboard?
The DePauw thesis suggests something pretty mind-blowing. Our creators might actually be us. Well, our post-human descendants, who have turned entire planets into supercomputers. Since they control the code, these simulators would essentially be omnipotent and omniscient. They can monitor absolutely everything and break the laws of physics whenever they want. It perfectly mirrors Thomas Aquinas' classic design argument for a god. But there's a really dark side to this. The thesis brings in Martin Heidegger's critiques of technology, warning that if post-humans are simulating us, they're essentially treating human life and our entire history as nothing more than a technological resource to be mined for data. It kind of fundamentally strips away our intrinsic human value.
Let's look at Section 4, Identity and Simulated Afterlives. Prepare yourselves for the concept of computational resurrection. If you are made entirely of data, your whole life is basically being recorded and saved on a hard drive somewhere. So when you die, the creators could literally just take your memory card and plug it into a brand new simulated body. They could even put you in an artificial physical body up in their higher base reality. But it raises a huge, totally profound question. If your brain data is just copy-pasted into a new shell, does that actually preserve who you are? Is that still you?
To really illustrate how weird this gets, the thesis brings up Daniel Dennett's famous "Where am I?" thought experiment. Imagine scientists take your physical brain out of your head and keep it alive in a vat. They hook it up with radio links to an artificial body miles away. You feel exactly like you're inside that artificial body, walking around the world, but your physical brain is just chilling in a lab. Now imagine they duplicate your brain data onto a computer chip and give you a switch to swap back and forth between your biological wet brain and your digital chip brain. Which one is the real you? It completely shatters the link between physical brains, virtual bodies, and our actual sense of consciousness.
Philosopher Derek Parfit breaks this down even further with a crazy thought experiment about cloned triplets. If scientists split your brain in half and put it into two identical cloned bodies, both of those clones will have your memories. They have what's called qualitative identity. They are exactly like you, but they lack numerical identity. They can't literally be you because there can only be one you occupying a single space and time. So this paradox of psychological continuity gives us a harsh truth. If the simulation just reboots your code into a new body, your original personal identity technically dies. You don't survive the respawn. A perfect copy of you does.
That brings us to Section 5, the illusion of free will. Are we just programmed to choose? Way back in the day, Immanuel Kant argued that we actually live in two realms. There's the phenomenal realm, which is the world we experience through our senses. In our case, that's the simulation itself, completely locked down by the coded laws of physics. But then there's the noumenal realm. That is the world as it truly is in itself, which is completely invisible to our simulated senses. The DePauw research ties this directly into John Milton's theology in Paradise Lost. The idea is, just like Adam and Eve had free rational choice despite God's ultimate plan, we might actually be exercising our free will up in the noumenal realm, even while our physical bodies down here seem totally bound by digital destiny. If you want a really modern way to look at this, Marcus Arvin uses an amazing video game analogy. Think about a character in a game. Inside the game, the lower reference frame, every single action seems strictly governed by the physics engine. It's just code. But the actual choices, the decisions, those are being made by the person holding the controller, up in the higher reference frame, completely free of the game's physical laws. So yeah, free will could absolutely exist for us. It just operates outside the simulation's coded physics. And finally, Section 6, the danger of knowing. I really want you to genuinely ask yourself this. If humanity is just a massive experiment running on some cosmic server, is proving the ultimate truth of reality actually a good idea? Like, if scientists found a literal backdoor in the universe's code tomorrow morning, should they go on TV and announce it to the world? Well, according to philosophy professor Preston Green, absolutely not. No way. He issues a very stark warning. If we prove we're in a simulation and everybody realizes their artificial nature, we instantly ruin the integrity of the experiment. The data gets tainted. And what do scientists do when a simulation stops giving them useful natural data? They hit delete. They pull the plug.
Simply proving the simulation theory could trigger an immediate, albeit probably painless, deletion of our entire universe.
So, as we wrap up this explainer and our journey into the architecture of existence, I want to leave you with one final, kind of unsettling thought. In just a few seconds, when this finishes and you look away from your screen to observe the room around you, what exactly is rendering your reality? Are you the player holding the controller, or are you just the code? Keep focusing, keep questioning everything, and I'll see you next time.